Hello, how is every single one of you guys doing today? I'm gonna be making a tier list. The tier list of the best perks in Decaying Winter. Are you guys ready? Because today I'm not gonna leave any single perk behind. I made this tier list, I dropped it in the Discord, and a couple people have already made their own tier lists. It was really fun seeing what you guys came up with. I have just been enthralled with this game. It is, I believe, one of the best Roblox games in the platform right now. And if you haven't tried it yet, you should. It is an amazing game. And let's get to it. Let's start with the survivalist. We have to start with the survivalist because this is the perk that everyone starts with. So the perks are, it starts with the backpack, and that's pretty much it, right? It starts with the backpack and with the health and the starvation. No starvation. It has its hunger filled and it has its thirst filled and everything. Let's put it, I believe this is pretty good. We all know that feeling of like you are a certain perk and you haven't found a backpack for literally 6 waves so far, and you've been struggling with 4 inventory slots for the whole game. And those games that you start with the backpack are literally the best games because then you can just have everything on you at all times. I'm actually thinking about putting this A, but it might be a B. I don't know. It's a B. In my book, it's a B because it is still really good with the backpack, but it has no actual stat changes and it doesn't have an ability that helps it. So although it is really good, all it can really rely on is the equipment. So let's put it on a B tier. That's pretty solid. It's not really amazing or anything, but it's still pretty good. The next perk we got is going to be Hive Mind. So Hive Mind, it has faster shoves, immune to bleed damage, hive aura, but it has reduced max health, it has reduced defense, and reduced max stamina. Its ability, it's the swarm that will debilitate enemies. It has 3 different forms. It is actually a really good perk, but it is more of a support perk rather than a solo perk. I think it's at least an A. The stat changes are really bad though. For this class, this is the only thing that's bringing it down. It's the stat changes because reduced max health, defense, and stamina are really big. Even though it has faster shoves and it's immune to bleed damage, that's pretty much the only things you get. It is a really good ability though. It is absolutely game changing when you have this in your game because then it synergizes with so many traps and classes that just allow you to play the game better. It's at least an A because of the ability. Next up, we got the Arbiter right over here. This guy has increased melee damage. He is immune to cripple and he has increased max health, but he has heavily slower reloading and heavily reduced hipfire accuracy. So no guns for this guy if you're gonna be him. His ability is called Augmentation Knuckle Boom. Fire on a shotgun blast, a shot shell blast from your wrist, disorientates and damages enemies, causes user knockback. If timed right, punch the shot shell for more range. So this guy, I always see him jumping all around the map. I've actually never played with this class, but I do, from the stat changes and from the ability, think it's pretty good actually. Since guns are just a no-go for it though, that's pretty bad because for later stages of the game, you do want to play with guns, and if you're gonna try to solo with this class, good luck. Being immune to cripple is really good though. I do want to give this guy A, but I'll give him A. He's not an S tier, but he is at least an A. His stats are really good and his ability is pretty good. It's decent. I might change it to B later. Let's see. Next up on our list, we have the Risk Runner right over here. This guy is the machine gun man. He's unable to be grappled. Greatly greatly increased recoil control, greatly increased hip fire accuracy, but he has the inability to aim ranged weapons and he scavenges much less ammo. That is horrible. The ability though is what actually matters for this man. He arms and wields the high power Volca machine gun. Ammo pickups will refill it faster, and he can only be armed at 50% or more, designed for sustained fire only. This is an amazing class. I'm telling you guys, the machine gun shreds through enemies. This is one of the S tiers. Definitely. This guy, I'm telling you all, he is amazing. Even though he scavenges less ammo, his weapon control is so good. Even though he's not able to aim, he has increased recoil control and hip fire accuracy. And his gun for the ability is absolutely devastating against any foe wave or late game that he's trying to go against. This guy is one of the biggest assets in your team, and he is amazing for soloing. Next up, we have the Executioner. The Executioner has increased resistance to damage, it has increased max stamina, increased melee swing speed, but it has heavily reduced hipfire accuracy, reduced recoil control, and cannot use scrappers. That is such a big downside. But his ability is that he can lower goggles to view information on enemies, and he can claim and redeem bounties for melee damage and scrap. Receiving attacks will damage the goggles. This guy is actually really good, but he is the definition of skill. This class is an absolute menace at melee distance, but it does require a lot of skill. Because of the skill cap, I think I'm gonna have to let it at B. Might go to a C, I don't know. But the average Decaying Winter player can actually not play this very well. It is a very high skill cap class, but it's a very low floor. Therefore, I think I have to put this class a little bit lower than the rest. But although I'm putting it low in the tier list, it does mean that if you're actually good with this class, it can be way higher, go up to like an S or best of the best. Next up, we have the Zealot, which has increased resistances to damage, increased max health, but it has reduced movement speed and heavy swing speed. And then his ability is the Aegis Void DS. Deploy the Aegis barrier and automated turret in guard mode. Hold to guard with the Aegis shield in protect mode. We've all seen this man. He's the man with the big shield in the front that has the auto turret. He's playing tower defense here while we're all playing zombie apocalypse survival mode. This guy is actually goated. He is amazing. He's at least an S tier, if not best of the best. He is a huge asset to your team whenever you can use him. Because of the resistances to damage and the max health, he's already good. His stats are amazing. They are off the chart. Plus his ability, which are an actual game changer. This guy is amazing. If you can have at least one of him in your team, it's gonna be a huge asset. Next up, we have the Tick Spider. This is not one of my favorite classes. It has increased damage with explosives, faster trap deployment, increased recoil control, but it has reduced defense and reduced melee damage. Its ability is called the Paragon Ticks. You can throw an explosive tick in front of you and they will detonate in the presence of nearby enemies. You can hold it to enable seeking, and it has 3 charges per night. Or actually not per night, it actually charges up. This guy, I'm gonna go straight ahead and have to put him at C. He is not very amazing. His abilities are kind of wonky, janky. You can call it whatever you want. It is kind of actually hard to use it. This is a hard class to use, but if you're using it, you have to be careful to not damage your teammates, and you have to be careful to actually use the abilities properly, and you have to be careful because it has reduced defense and reduced melee damage without any actually super good perks. So this guy does not have the best stats, and his ability is not the best, and you have to be careful while using it. So its skill cap is already medium, and it's not very good if you're the best of the best with it. So I'm gonna have to give it a C. Next up in the tier list is called the Blitzer. This guy right here. He has increased aiming speed, increased resistances to damage, immune to fractures, immune to explosive effects, but it has slower trap deployment and reduced melee damage. His ability is Booknight Gift. Arm an explosive airburst payload that causes disorientation and sticks to anything. Hold to detonate, and it has 6 charges. This guy, I'm telling you guys, he is so good. This class is actually amazing, but you have to be careful. If you're playing this with your team, you have to be skilled. You have to know how to play with this, and your teammates have to be aware that you're actually playing with the Blitzer, because these guys are maniacs on the field. I'm telling you, if a Blitzer does not know how to use his ability properly, he will kill his own teammates for fun. It is not fun. I wish to put this in the damned tier so nobody would ever play this without skill, but I have to give it props because its stats are absolutely amazing and the ability is top notch. It is very good. If there is a good Blitzer player on your team, you are gonna have a very good time. If you have a bad one though, you guys are just gonna die night 4. Next up, we have the Artillerist right here. This is one of my personal favorites because I do love playing with guns. It has faster reloading, increased hipfire accuracy, and can scavenge more ammo, but it has reduced defense and slower shoves, which are pretty big debuffs. The ability is the Magnum Impulska Vena. It readies up a high caliber revolver before firing, and it gains a buff and reduced cooldown on a headshot kill. Pierces resistances. This is a very good class for the skilled of CSGO. If you want to play Overwatch in this game, you want to pick this guy. If you want to play as the classic McCree, this is your McCree right here. I'm gonna give it S tier right off the bat. Being able to scavenge more ammo is the sole reason this gets S tier. Its ability is It's the ability of the Artillerist is not why you're playing it. It's because of all the perks that are pretty much traits and the ability to scavenge more ammo. Although the debuffs are pretty big with slower shoves and reduced defense, you do not want to be hit with him anyway. He's not meant to be a character that you're tanking with them. He's meant to be a character that you're killing everything before they even get to you. He is amazing. He's at least an S tier, might change him to the best of the best, but no, he is the S tier. Next up, we have the Prophet, the good old scavenger, the good old I want all the loot for myself. He has increased max health, faster movement speed, faster harvesting, no fall damage, although it comes at the cost of reduced melee damage and increased crafting cost. So although he is the scavenging class with the faster harvesting, he does have a cap of increased crafting cost. Now let's get to the ability. Its ability is the Savant Scanner. So you can hold to scan and analyze the surrounding, marking supplies for yourself, and you can press to scan in front of you, marking enemies for teammates. So this is actually a pretty good support class. Although you would look at it and you're like, oh, isn't this a really good solo class because you can just get all the items for yourself and not really care about anyone else? Yes, that is the first thing you would think with this class, and that is what most people are thinking. But no, the actual good players with Prophet know that he is a support class, because then you can analyze the enemies that are behind the walls and you can reveal them for your teammates that are playing perhaps a ranged class or perhaps another support class, so they know exactly where the enemy is, so they don't have to worry about them, or so they can worry about the enemies that are about to attack them. It is a very useful class for knowing the enemies exactly where they are, but again, it's one of those misconceptions that people don't really know how to play with him. I'm gonna give this class a B tier, because its ability is not the easiest to play with, but if you're good with this class, it will be a pretty valuable asset to your team. Next up, we have the Kira, which is the Yasuo of this game. This guy has increased melee swing speed, faster movement speed, and increased melee damage, but it comes at a cost of reduced max health and reduced defense. Its ability is the Nomad Blade Kira, and you can press it to swing Kira in a slash in front of you. Executing enemies with Kira grants 1 dog tag, and you can hold to redeem dog tags for health. So right now, this Perk is one of the best in the game. I know so many people hate him because it's a Yasuo main and people don't like Yasuo mains, but hot take here, this guy is actually goated. I love the Kira, the way he plays, and you can just stack things for late game. If you are a good Kira player, you can solo the game by yourself and just carry your team. Most people though play Kira just because he's cool and because you can get to play Genji or Yasuo in Decaying Winter. But no, he is good because you can basically carry a whole team by yourself. Our next perk on the highlight spot is the Lazarus. Lazarus has increased max health and is immune to bleeds, but you dropped ranged weapons on damage and you have slower reloading, in addition to reduced melee damage. Its ability is the Arctic NCU device, which you can fire an energized nanite charged bolt that can save lives. Teammates hit will receive the Lazarus buff and enemies hit will be shocked. This is one of the best support classes in the game right now. It is amazing, but by itself, it's not very good. This is a perfect A tier. Its stats are actually pretty horrific. You don't want to play this for the stats. You want to play it for the ability to buff your teammates and to debuff your enemies, which is really good actually in a standard night. Next up, we have the Berserker right over here. This is a fan favorite. Everyone loves this class. You have increased melee damage, increased resistances to damage, and you are unable to be grappled, but you have heavy reduced recoil control, heavy reduced hipfire accuracy, and you scavenge less ammo. So this is actually the perfect melee class. Its ability is Calamity Serum with upon injection, you gain increased attack damage, speed, and bloodlust, and the duration of the serum is increased on kills and parries. You have fatigue at the end of the serum. Hot take, this is actually not one of the best perks in the game, which I'm gonna put it on the A side because a lot of people don't know how to play with Berserker. They just know it's good and they want to play with it, but they don't know how to. It is the best melee class in the game right now, definitely, but you have to know how to use it. You cannot only just melee, you have to be good at the game, and you can't just rush into a wave, rush into 50 enemies at a time and expect to win. No. You have to actually be good and to be able to play the game properly and solo enemies by yourself. So our next is the Immolator. This guy right here, he has immune to burning damage, increased melee damage, and he has the inability to aim ranged weapons and has slower reloading. Its ability is the Flamer unit Chaos, which will immolate everything around you, and you can hold to prime OVFT, igniting enemies. More overheat increases melee damage, but you cannot fully overheat or you just die immediately. This guy is actually one of the best classes in the game. I want to put it as the best of the best, but I will not. This guy is going to go at least S tier for both the ability to buff your teammates and your ability to burn enemies. He's an all-in package. You have everything you want in that, except you're not going to be able to aim ranged weapons, but that's not really what you're looking for with it. As long as you can use a weapon, that is fine, because all you're looking to do is actually use your melee and use your ability. This is definitely one of the best abilities in the game, and a lot of people don't know how to use it in public lobbies, but it's just so good that it can go to S tier here. Sovereign. It has increased max stamina, Curse Dagger, but it has reduced melee damage and reduced movement speed. You have the Scytherian Ritual Dagger, which you can throw to hex nearby enemies, and it can be used out of cooldown to perform bloodletting. This guy is one of the best classes in the game as well, I believe. It's one of my favorites, at least. Whenever I have a Sovereign in my team, I am very happy to have it, and I will put it at least A tier. The stat debuffs are pretty bad. Reduced melee damage and reduced movement speed, and it doesn't really have that many buffs, which is just max stamina pretty much, but it compensates this lack of stats for the ability, which is just beyond description. If you get this a pro sovereign in your team, they can carry you, but it is very rare to get one because most people just see it and they're like, oh, I get a zombie army, now I win. No, that's not it. A lot of this game is actually skill, and you cannot rely on a very good ability to win. Mind Flayer, this is my baby. I love Mind Flayer. This is the best of the best. Damned is one of the best perks in the game. You gain double XP and Odins, and you do not suffer from death morale. This guy is soloing the charts in public lobbies because everyone dies in public lobbies and you cannot do anything about it. This guy has immunity to morale debuffs. If that has ever bothered you in a public lobby, just play Damned. You will win the game by yourself. This is the way to go. So this is it, guys. This is my tier list. Let me just make some final updates here. I think Executioner can go to C. Prophet can stay in B. We can have Blitzer go to B, although they are very good stats. Most Blitzer players are brain dead. And I think this is going to be my final tier list for the night. If you want to actually play public lobbies and gain all the wins, you gotta play as Damned. If you want to actually be known as the best in your community and you only should play this class, this is the only right class to play, Mind Flayer right here. You only play it if you have big IQ, and if you don't have big IQ, play it so people can think that you do. This is the finished official best tier list on the internet right now. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want, you can leave a like and subscribe. Thank you again, and have a great night, day, evening, or morning, depending on wherever you are in this world. Bye bye.